Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. Thank you for tuning in weekly and making us your number one selection for shows here in this area. We certainly want to thank all of you that are here. I'm in the studio with my main man, the Rob, Father Rob. What's good with you?
What's up, man? I'm doing all right.
What's up, man? Your energy seems low. Is everything
No,
good?
I ain't just fine, man. I'm good. Hey, but I just did a 4 hour show. I'm jamming on my own show. So
He is. Robin, what's the name of your show
I'm
again?
partaking in my own supply of classic soul Sunday with the
Shameless
Rock
plug.
Father.
Shameless plug. What
That's
time is
right.
Classic Soul, Rob?
1 to 5 every Sunday live.
1 to 5 every
Yeah,
Sunday. And
yeah.
also, you just listened to Community Connections with Joyce Harvin. So we are here, and we're in good company. I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about on today. Today is going to be a different kind of show. I was thinking that it was very important for us to do an update on all the things that are going on. So many conversations, so many topics, so many things that are happening. And so today we're going to update you on everything that's going on from Arpa to Leandria. We're going to cover it all on today. And I think that you'll be pleased with the content that we have. Once again, those of you who are listening, if you enjoyed this show, you can always go check us out on the website, kisswtlz.com. And you'll see on that main page icon show, you'll see Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. You can go there and you'll find previous content. This show will air in a couple of days, and other podcasts that we've had on that show. Always go to YouTube and check out I Grow Daily, Kareem Bowen. You'll be able to check out all of the content that we have and that we're putting out there. And also just make sure that you're staying involved with what's going on. I want to thank all of you that are continually listening. Rob, it's interesting. Sometimes life just has it that I have to call in and be like, Rob, can we play an old show? And I completely leave those show up to Rob. But Rob, it seems like every time you select the show on what we're going to play next, you pick a show that people wanted to hear again. And so I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
And then for all of you people out there, y'all keep me honest, boy. Don't think your boy can leave and be gone for any period of time. Because I get phone calls. Today's show wasn't live, was it? This was an old show, wasn't it? And so I thank you all for tuning in. I guess, you guys are really checking for me. And so I should be thankful. I want to say welcome to those of you who are coming into our social media streams from our various platforms. And I see you guys across the board. So stay on here, get involved. Let's invite people to the conversation. What's very important, and one of the things that I think is so important for us to do is that we...
I don't think you're live. Are you on?
Yeah, I'm live. Yeah, he's like, I don't think you're live. Are you on? One of the things that is so important for us to do is to make sure that we continually keep you abreast of what's going on. We talk about Straight Talk. We're giving you the insight on what's happening. No chaser, no filter. Yeah, we're in there, Rob. We're in the house. So I want to say hello, Rob. You have greetings from Jersey One Walker. Evening, Rebecca Garth Townsend. My guys seem like, hey, I don't think you went live today, bro. It's been a long weekend, hasn't it, Rob? But this is the start of a new week. But let's get to the things. I always talk about what's on my mind. And today's show is really giving you some perspective on the things, my personal opinion. I want to say that from the very beginning, that the things and this information that I'm sharing are my personal opinions. When they are not my opinions or my thoughts concerning situations, rooms, or meetings that I've had, I will allow you to understand, and I'll make it very clear that this is not my opinion, but this is something that was stated, all right? And it's really important that you understand that there's a lot that's going on in the world around you that impacts you, that you've got to be involved with. But before we do that, let's take a more broad look at this. Hurricane season is in full effect. As a matter of fact, Rob, I thought that on today I would be leaving to go to Cape Coral, Florida. I had plans made. I said, I'm going to get my mom and my brother, and we're going to go to Florida. I know it's hurricane season, but there's never hurricanes, on the Gulf side, of the lower part of the Florida Panhandle. And just so be it, we get 100-year storm. As they said, they haven't seen a storm like this in the history of hurricanes. And it hit directly Cape Coral, Rob.
Yeah, in the Sanibel area. And I happen to interesting because that was my former wife's and I's honeymoon area.
Wow.
Her best friend who was from college lived down there. So we had a chance to go to that island there. And when I learned that it's practically underwater,
Sanibel Island. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is, and actually that island, you living on the islands, there are people who have a lot of money and their homes are going to be built differently. So the houses that were on that particular island probably fared a lot better than most people who are out there, in that area, people want makeshift homes, so they go less on the structure
Mm-hmm.
and more on location. And so, you got a lot of what I call highfalutin trailer parks or manufactured homes that are in that area, and it is a total decimation of that area. And I've been talking with people who are in the area. I had some friends that I know that are in the area looking at what's on. So we're praying for those people. Somebody said something that was to me, and my initial thought was, you know what, that's kind of mean. But then I thought about it again. This comes with living on coastal cities. This is not the first time they've had a hurricane, Rob.
Or fault plates, for that matter, if it's an earthquake.
Absolutely. So this is not the first time. And so, if they tell you to evacuate, you don't listen, then, you've taken your life in your own hands. And it's unfortunate that so many people in this particular situation have done just that, Rob.
Right.
They're hesitant to announce the death toll, but it is reaching, I think it's going to be, I'm forecast in the hundreds. I hope that's not true, but there's so many people that are still missing.
Right.
There's so many people that, and to be honest, the way the water was coming through, one lady said that in a matter of minutes, it went from breaking through the front door, like crashing in like a thief in the night, to shoulder deep in the matter of 8 to 9 minutes. That's some fast. And when the Gulf moves, that's what's so beautiful about this. The weather is such a beautiful place, but then nature has a strong and powerful grip that we have to recognize.
Yeah, and water always wins.
Absolutely, and
water
it shows us the frailty of human life. So if you know somebody around you, go give somebody a hug, tell them you love them. But anyways, Hurricane Ian hit Florida with a 1-2 punch that nobody could have understood. Not only did the coastal cities hit, but friends down in Orlando said that their streets had become swimming pools. They were literally going down the street in boats. I was down in Orlando for a couple of years, and so got friends back there, and they're like, look, our whole community is underwater. Nobody's talking about Orlando because they're assuming that since they're in the center of a landmass that nothing's happening. But our prayers are for those in Orlando and those coastal cities. Then it comes back out. I've never seen this before in my entire life, Rob. I've almost been here a half of a century, all right? And a long time. I want to mention that any other time, but I've been here this long. I've never seen a hurricane first of all, it was supposed to be a category 4 hitting the coast. It increased to 2 degrees, actually category 3. Category 4 in the Gulf to a category 3, and then hitting the coast. It actually increased. So we don't control and we don't know everything. So when you listen to the weatherman to determine if you're going to live or die, once again, you're putting your hands in someone else's life that does not control the weather. It strengthens to 2 degrees below a category 5 hitting the land. The hardest, most impactful hurricane that has ever been seen in U.S. history. Then it goes across the country, dumping waters, 2 feet of water in an hour. That's unbelievable. Then going back to the Atlantic coast and hitting those weather grids, that warmer water. We talk about global change and climate change. Then had enough enough heat in that water, those warmer waters, to strengthen back into a category 1 before impacting the Carolinas and Georgia. This is absolutely weather 101 at extreme. This is crazy, Rob.
And the slower it moves, the more water you're going to get, because it just takes its time doing what it needs to do to build up and whatnot. It's better if a hurricane is faster.
Yeah.
Than it is slower,
Yeah, and so this thing was moving at a snail's pace.
Right.
At once I think it hit land like 10 miles per hour. That is just sitting there dumping water on communities across the world. So FEMA and everybody's out there. We're going to be in prayer for all of the residents in Florida. We know that some people along the coast are there because they desire to be there, but many people in Orlando and Dade County and those other areas are there because, you can't leave. Most people don't usually leave the confines of the areas of where they grow up, especially when you're Black and brown folks like us. We tend to stay until someone gets the nerve to make a big move. So prayers go out to them. Then I also want to talk a little bit. We're going to have a greater discussion about this. So make sure that you guys tune in because things are getting very real, people. They're getting real. The city master plan, that's a conversation. That's a part of what we're going to be talking about. And I'm just going to tell you that Monday, October 10th, is the next day, and that's at the City Hall Chamber. And that is going to be, normally it starts at 6, but they've been doing some new things. The city master plan has gone through the process. This last meeting that they had on last Tuesday, with all of the discrepancies, whatever, they voted to pass the city master plans as it was, understanding that it was a living document that could be edited. So it has been passed in the planning, the zoning, the planning commission. So now it goes over to city council, and the city council has to now pass it for it actually to be taken in as an actual document that will guide our community. There's a lot that I've learned about that. I've met with a number of people, conversations with the city managers, the city council people, also our planning director and individuals from the commission. This is still your opportunity. I think the thing that comes out of this, and this is most important, so I hope you all are listening to me, because I was sitting down with them. The thing that becomes most important is that we often talk about what we don't want, Rob. I don't want no marijuana place in around my corner. I don't want this. I don't want a strip club in my neighborhood. And we make our complaints about what we don't want, and they usually come after everything has been done. I want to applaud you, City of Saginaw, for not waiting till the 11th hour. Well, you kind of did. You waited right before the vote, but this time some of your ideas, some of your cares, your concerns were brought in before the ink was put on the dotted line. So I want to thank you all for engaging in the process, but this is what's important from this point moving forward. You guys need to be involved. You need to stop making city council, city planning commissions only when there's something that interests you or something when you don't want it. But we've got to be involved with the process on a regular basis. So I'm glad to note and to be able to share with you all today that I've been meeting with organizations in the city that are continuing the work, continuing the process. Saginaw African American pastors, say what you want to about us, and I always say them, but I say what you want to about us because I am an African American pastor in the community. But they have been meeting. They had a very productive meeting on this past week. They're replanning. They're putting things together, coming up with plans, actual plans, and that's the thing, Rob. We say this is what we want, and we show pictures and diagrams, and you know what they have over there in Detroit, or this is what they do in Texas. But you've got to have a plan. If it's not in writing, it does not exist. So put it to black and white ink, black ink to white paper, so that we can really begin to make an impact. And I see that happening. We're going to be talking today with Jeffrey Bulls. He's going to call in today at the halfway between the hour. And we're going to talk with him because what I like that he and CAP have done, the organization that he created, is that they've come up with a plan, and these are amendments that they are suggesting that the Planning Commission take into effect. Actually, not the Planning Commission, this is actually now City Council would take into effect to amend. We can always make amendments to this master plan, is what we now have found out. It is not a document of stone, but it is actually one that has a breathing, living aspect to it. This is what we see. Let's make some changes in a year. Let's make some changes in 6 months. So I want to let you know that there are people that are out there doing the work. We're going to talk to them on today's show. So the city master plan conversation, that has been passed. So they passed it to bring it to city council for the vote. The next city council meeting, as far as now, is Monday, October 10th. But this last week, they pulled one on me, y'all. They did a special session starting at 5 p.m. So if you were thinking the city council was going to happen, let me tell you what, at 6 o'clock, let me tell you what you missed. When I got there I was aware or alerted, and I tried to share it on my social media platforms, that there was going to be an ARPA conversation that was starting at 5 p.m. So at 5 p.m., they picked up this ARPA conversation, and then at 6 p.m., they transitioned to regular city business. Now, in this ARPA conversation, now, y'all, one of the problems of the issues that I had is I was like, these people are going to do what they want to do with this money. Rob, is that not where we have been?
That's right.
So we've pretty much said, hey, get involved in the conversation, but I kind of have a feeling they're going to do what they want to do.
Yep.
And I did not want this to be a situation where the usual suspects we're getting money again, and it's the same old, so to speak. But on last week, it's been 2 years that we've had these ARPA funds just kind of waiting. And another question came to mind, Rob, because I've never seen $2 million that didn't collect interest. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
So if $52 million, if $52 million is sitting in, let's say, a bank account, there's a 1%, 2%, 3% interest yield that you get off of that.
Depends on what bank you go to.
There's interest that's going to be accrued when you loan the money your bank. When you loan banks your money to lend out,
They give
you interest.
Right.
So there's a whole nother conversation that I don't even want to go down that, because we can't even deal with the $52 million. That's the first part.
But is there an expiration as to when you're supposed to use that money?
There is an expiration as to when the monies need to be pushed out. So they've got to be moved, I think, from these initial coffers into other places.
Within 5 years, something like that?
I think it's 2026 monies have to be spent, if I'm not correct. But y'all correct me. I know y'all out there listening. So if we're not correct, I think they have to be disseminated by a particular date, and then they have to be utilized by a particular date. And what that means is that they've got to be promised in certain areas, given to those areas, and those areas can utilize those funds. All right. So we've been waiting for $2 million to see what was going to happen with ARPA funds. 52, right. We've been waiting for $2 million. We've been waiting for 2 years for $52 million.
You got $2 million, but $52 million is a whole different animal.
There you go, whole other animal. $52 million, 2 years. And I promise you, I was in this meeting, I could not get in. And this is to point to the issue that many people have said. I know there was a recommendation by some city council members that we move the meeting to the temple. And there may be a fee that's along with, but I could definitely see the temple being a very welcome guest. But not only the temple, for when you have these conversations that are transformative, when you're talking about this kind of money, Thompson Middle School, there's been a big thing that, many of the issues are being raised by residents of the East Side or with interest on the East Side. We could have the meeting on the West Side at Thompson. And I'm sure our director would be gracious to allow us to come in and to have this meeting. And I say this, Rob.
I mean, the superintendent of schools. So.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Our school superintendent. I'm sure he would be gracious to allow us in.
Right.
But let me tell you why this is important. Yes, I see that someone said allocated 24, spent by 26. Okay, so the monies have to be allocated by 2024. That's what I thought it was, and they have to be spent by 2026. So time is passing, and we're putting. This was pandemic money. Okay, people, listen to me. This was money. Emergency money.
Right.
Let's say that. So if there was an emergency, Rob, if you cut your finger and you hit one of your key arteries or veins in your body, you're going to be letting blood, right?
Right.
And so you're not going to go and say, I'm going to make an appointment with my doctor. What are you going to do?
You're going to fix it as soon as you can.
Okay. This is 911. This is an emergency.
Trying to get whatever you need to do right
Absolutely.
Right.
So you got to stop the bleeding immediately. And then you get to someone who's able to handle this. This is an emergency situation. Right. These funds are emergency dollars. They were pandemic dollars, which were received, 2 years ago. And I was listening to a speech that our president said, and he was talking about he declared an end to the extreme or the emergency portion of the pandemic.
Oh, did he? I didn't know.
Yes, he said, that COVID as we knew it, that portion of the pandemic is now over. But this is what I'm saying. This is why this is sad, because I think leadership matters, and I think, and this has nothing to do with our leaders. Many of us have never seen $52 million. I think most people would shrill at $52 million. But when you're afraid of money, you don't know how to handle money.
Yes.
And
we talked about that before.
Absolutely.
I think you said those exact words before when this money came out.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you cannot be afraid of this money, and you cannot be afraid of the people that you're leading. And I say this to our leaders because sometimes you just have to make difficult decisions.
Right.
And sometimes you can say, look, you can do this, but I'm not doing this because we're going to do it this way.
And everybody's not going to be happy.
And everyone's never going to be happy. Right. And so I never want our leaders to be badgered. I think and asking strong questions is not being badgered.
No.
But we've got to be willing to make some decisions. So in 15, 20 minutes, maybe, Rob, 2 years we've been waiting and could not spend this money, paid $1 million for a consultant to come in to tell us how we need to utilize these funds.
I was going to ask you, how much did it cost? We're spending money to get information.
Yeah, Bright House Consultants. Look them up. Go out and take a look at them and see what kinds of cases they're used to managing and what kinds of things that they're used to. So they were brought in as consultants, highly recommended. And in 20 minutes, maybe, I think there's 20 minutes of the meeting, 30 minutes at most, we saw $11 million be spent in 11 minutes. Now, let me break this down for you because there was $52 million starting out. 26 of those $1 million, the city had every right to say, hey, this is from losses and what we need to get done. So that means $26 million are remaining, right? So if $26 million are remaining, you take 11 from that, how much is that, Rob?
I don't know.
$15 million, Rob.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so 11 plus minus 26 minus 11 is 15, right? So we have $15 now million. And I need you to understand this, is that they're saying over 400 and some proposals. So if there are 400 and something proposals, $11 million went to these key areas. And I want to share these with you. And I've talked with one of the councilwomen who has, pushed or made the move to do this. And this is what I need you to understand.
Let me ask you something, though.
Yes.
Are we the only city that's taken so damn long to determine what to do with this money? Because other cities have spent the money and gotten what they've done already.
Rob, you asked and answered your own question.
Okay.
All right. So I need you to understand this, that my concerns or my issue that I'm raising is not about process. It's not about content. It's about process. All right. Sometimes you can do something that could be right, but if you do it the wrong way, it doesn't make it feel any better. All right. So we've gone through this long, drawn out process. I think it's over a year. We put together this panel. ARPA's, we've taken community citizens, and they've been on this year-long journey to figure out, how we should, listening to ideas and reading through proposals, making suggestions. We paid $1 million to make this thing happen. So I said 11 million, there's 15 million left. If we take $1 million from that, there's not 15, there's 14, right? So there's $14 million out there. 11, if $11 million was spent, so $14 million left. This is the thing. $5 million was recommended by Councilwoman Annie Bench, for the purpose of blight in our communities, because they put them in buckets. So we talked about blight. So $5 million on blight, and I called. I was like, listen, I need to know exactly what are we talking about. We just put $5 million aside in a bucket, or whatever you will, in a fund for blight. And she explained it, and I had no issues with what the thing was. Because I think that if our residents in our community can say, hey, I have this issue, and most of those times they'll give you, you get $3,000. Well, my roof costs $12,000. You might as well not give me the money, or I need a, new ramp on my house because now I'm in a wheelchair, or my grandmother's in a wheelchair, my mom's in a wheelchair. So these are unrestricted in terms of the amount of money. So if you need $15,000 to get your roof taken care of, you can, appeal for those funds, and they're reserving those funds for you to get those funds and get done what you need. So I have no issue with that. Once again, it is not about content. It's not about the idea or even what it's going for. It's about the process. And so it seemed as though there was a meeting before the meeting.
Red tape.
We've heard this. So there's a meeting before the meeting. So Annie Bench put that in, $5 million for that. Another issue, and we were dealing with blight and I think blight and not necessarily housing, but blight and maybe it was housing. I can't remember at the moment. But so the next proposal came in. By the way, I don't know who this woman is. And Miss Serger, I see her at city council meetings. I've never seen her in the community, but she's on city council, and she made a proposal for another $2.8 million to do something with the stuff that's in land bank, houses and properties. Maybe they can buy them back, put about $60,000 in renovation monies, put them in so people can then live in those homes. My thing is, if we are going to use maybe people who don't have a home, and we do first-time home buyers, and we do that kind of renovation, a home buyer can come in, show that they've done 2 years of payment, because that's usually what banks want to see. If you do 2 years of payments and on-time payments, that we can then create a mortgage, since we have all of these banks and credit unions that want to do all of this funding for homeowners in our community. And I know I'll talk about the NAACP in a minute, because we lost a branch, but we gained a new opportunity for home ownership. I want to see what that's about. But if these opportunities are out there, why not devise the plan? We use this money. Let's make new homeowners. 2 months of payment. We'll record them. We'll get with the lender, help you get a mortgage. Now we're into home ownership in the city, right? If we can do that, I'm all for it. And I told them, I said, I'll sing your praises if we're able to create a system that is dynamic like that we can create new homeowners. And I believe that. The next ARPA meeting is located. This is one of the users. Next public ARPA meeting is November 28th. Wow. Topic, health. So the next pool that they're going to be dealing with is health. So guess what falls under health? A certain proposal. Somebody read my mind out there. Guess what falls under health? A proposed building along the river. And that's going to be $5 million more. Y'all, we can't make this stuff up. And people will say, there's a lot of conversation happening about mental health. But if I have mental health and I don't have an insurance, that $5 million business is not going to help me. If I have mental health issues and you don't take my insurance, then that is not going to be able to help me. If I have, mental health and I don't have a certain kind of insurance, then that building is not going to help me. I hope y'all pick it up when I'm dropping.
Or your mental health has been diagnosed differently from someone else's. Don't get me started.
I mean, but I think that this is where we have to read between the lines,
right.
And understand what's going on.
But the lines are so thin; they're not narrow like school books. They're very thin lines you got to read between.
People, we got to continue. Rob is over here. He picking at me now because he knows how I am.
I agree with you, bro. I agree with you. I just see it's just.
Pay attention, folks. Then the last proposal was $2 million, proposed by George Copeland for the purpose of, and I love George, food desert. I didn't understand how this particular proposal fit into the area of blight, community blight, but $2 million to find a building that we can rehab that would make. So all of these proposals pass. I mean, lightning warp speed. So there have been some answers and some things that have been put into circulation. I need you guys to understand, be a part of the process, get involved. And the way that you do this at the next meeting for ARPA, which is we now know, I put it out there on the screen, the next meeting for ARPA, which is out there November 28th. I think it's probably going to be at 5 p.m. You have to be there. You have to get involved. Yes, Shar Goolsby, it is a facility. It certainly is. It's a facility. We'll have more conversation about that between now and November, because on its merit, we would think, hey, let's do this. But is ARPA funding the way to go for, remember, emergency? I would love to see some of these community centers get money for mental health things. And $5 million is a lot of money to help with, because community services or community centers are in the community. So when we look at what's happening in certain areas, those centers are feeding into the most people who have been more impacted by this. Remember, emergency 911 funds, and 2 years later we're still spending them, but we cannot, just because the situations have changed regarding COVID does not mean that the impact that has been felt by COVID has changed. So it's important for us to talk about that. So we're going to get into that, and we got just a couple more minutes. We have our guest on the line, but I'm going to get this. We're going to take a quick break in just 1 second. Rob, give me 1 second before we take a break. I put in, and I've been talking with our city manager, and I don't care what you all think. When I deal with people based upon the merits of their own conversation. I've been talking with Tim Morales, and Rob, I was giving him a hard time when we were first trying to get him at the conversation about ARPA. Not really, just calling him to the carpet, making him do or challenging him to do what he was supposed to do. So I met with him, and he's been very gracious. Everything that he has said that he was going to do, he has done. So Tim, in my book, hey, you're a good guy. Yeah. So I asked him a question about General Motors. Because when you get to the north side of Saginaw, half of that land up there is industrial land that came up during our planning commission conversations. What is the role or what responsibility does General? Has anyone ever asked that question? It's been decades. This should have been asked a long time ago. And I'm sure someone probably raised the issue. So there's a company by the name of Racer Trust that is responsible for all the land that GM no longer wanted through the bankruptcy. So they pushed it to them. So he's been reaching out. The email has gone out to Racer Trust. And I need to know from the community, is this something that you want to engage in? I've talked with a couple of organizations who said, yes, we want to have a conversation. What role does GM play? Is there any responsibility for that? What can we do to bring them back to handle some of the things that they've left that have destroyed our community? So we are on that. It is happening. Thank you, Tim Morales, for making that out. He sent the email. It's going down. We're going to take a quick break. I was going to talk about Leandra, but y'all know what? I'm going to pray for Leandra. There are 3 C's that I was thinking about with Leandra. Do we call her out? Do we counsel her, or do we cancel her? And I'm not a firm believer of the cancel culture where we just cut people off. But, there are allegedly allegations of things out there that are unbecoming someone who considers themselves a gospel artist. Now, if you're an entertainer that sings music about the Bible and church and God, then that's one thing. But if your character is a problem, I think that we have to call out and counsel. And what I mean by is that you don't allow anybody, if you are a real believer, you stand up for what you believe in. And it's not about canceling her, but it's about bringing attention to the churches, and you got to do this to everybody, but you let churches know this is who we are. This is what we're doing. Our facilities are not rented. If it's alcohol or whatever the other issues may be, we are not going to condone that. So you can have your concert, if it's an entertainment concert, anywhere you want to have it. But we will not allow you to have a gospel concert here that does not have the character and the integrity of who Christ is. But I believe in counseling, and I believe in calling out. And when that doesn't happen, then you push them to you don't cancel them. They cancel themselves. You stop buying tickets. You stop patronizing. I don't care how good your gift is. If you're an entertainer, say you're an entertainer. At least, was it Flame or Lecrae or whatever his new name, New Flame, whatever his name is, the rapping gospel artist that y'all love so much. He came out and said, I don't want to be a gospel artist, a gospel rapper. I am an entertainer. So once they become entertainers, you put them in the places where entertainers go. And then you folks who got gospel music and gospel in you and Bible in you, stop buying the tickets. It's not about you canceling anybody. It's about them canceling themselves, and just give them enough rope to show where their true character is. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back to have a conversation about the master plan that we have some omissions or some additions to the master plan. Jeffrey Bulls is on the line. We're going to talk about it. Caps in the house. Stay tuned with more of Straight Talk. Camera. This is the other camera. Okay. That's why you thought that.
Yeah, okay. So this Leandra, who I just learned a while ago, was a gospel singer, as well as this Kim Burrell person.
Yeah.
Both, on the Heat by the people follow gospel.
Two different reasons. So
Kim Burrell and her.
Well, separate issues.
Okay.
Kim Burrell is on there because she's talking about money. And how she deserves a certain kind of lifestyle, and she's not going to be cheap. Right. She made a number of conversations. She just went on a rant about gay folks in her church one time, and running them out the church. That whole thing. Leandra's issues have been really her own self-inflicted issues. She has an alcohol problem, extreme alcohol problem, really? And when she goes on her alcohol binges, she gets on social media, and she said on last year, F the church.
This is a gospel singer?
This is a gospel artist. Yeah.
I was expecting something like that from like Kirk Franklin or somebody.
Kirk is Kirk is different.
For example, not him.
But that's where she was, and so she was like F the church. And then they had these issues. They brought her to the Stellar Awards. She performed impeccably, but she just has these meltdowns, and her own demons are destroying her ministry and her message. Exactly. So at some point, and she doesn't want to listen. So if they won't take counseling and they won't listen to you, you got to cut the rope.
Bye-bye.
Savings off regular sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
We're back with more Straight Talk. This is your guy, Kareem Bowen, on the line with Saginaw's CAP leader, coordinator, and founder, Jeffrey Bulls. Jeff, what's good, my man?
Hey, how we doing?
I'm doing well, Jeff. I would like for you, basically, in your own words, we have now come for a period of time. There's a number of people out there. Let's be clear. This is what I'm going to be clear about. First of all, explain who CAP is. Tell us who CAP is.
Well, CAP is a local and now statewide advocacy organization that we started right here in Saginaw. The acronym is CAP. That's Community Alliance for the People. We are a 501c3 organization. Going to be soon a C4, probably start a PAC as well. But yeah, we're a grassroots organization that literally started when the ARPA funds came out, and that was our first focus. We saw that Saginaw had $52 million coming. We thought it was a great opportunity to connect the local officials with the community and have a full community conversation. And we're still hoping.
What was your ask of the ARPA dollars, Jeff?
Number one, that the community was hurt. that continues to be our focus. It's a great opportunity for our local officials. The money didn't come from our taxes, or didn't come. We didn't have to take the money from the people. This was like a free opportunity for our local officials to talk with the community, figure out what the community wanted, and then it could be a win-win conversation.
All right, so that was a great answer. But what my answer was, what was CAP asking? What was the amount of monies that they asked for the ARPA funds?
Oh, zero. We have no skin in the game in that way. We don't need the money. We were doing everything we did for free.
Okay,
so,
I think and the reason I wanted to ask that, because I think it's important, because oftentimes people who dissent in terms of what is taking place are often thought of as, they're just mad because they didn't get what they wanted. So I think that it's important, before we start this conversation, your organization, CAP, which, and I'll be very clear, I am not one of the founders of CAP. I've not joined as a member of CAP. But I am a partner in the work that CAP is doing, because I believe in advocacy for our community and those individuals. And I believe that cry out that I've been having, Jeff, and your heart and your sentiments and you having the same thing, was the thing that brought us together. And I call Jeff my brother. But for folks that are out there, that's my little brother. And so you won't be able to put light in between who Jeff is as a person and I am in terms of our fight for what we're fighting for. However, CAP, Jeffrey Bulls, and myself are all separate entities. And would you say that's a good explanation of our relationship, Jeff?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And so I wanted to make sure, because as well, you all know that I do a number of things in the community. I'm working in a number of areas, and I intentionally did not put in an ask for the ARPA funds, because I was asked initially to be a part of the board to determine where funds were going to be. I was asked to do that specifically by individuals within our city government. And so I did not want to taint the process. I don't think that it is a good idea, or it is in good character, to ask for funds if you are there to disseminate and to determine where we need funds in our community. And I want to be very clear about that, because everyone that is a part of any type of board in that regards, to me, Mr. Bulls, should have that same intention. Now, I know that you were also a part of the advisory board that was created for the ARPA funds. Am I correct?
Yep, you're correct.
Okay, and there was no ask in terms of you or CAP for ARPA dollars.
Not at all.
Okay, could you say that would be the same? What's that?
Oh, we have no connection to any of the acts from any of the organizations around the city. We've been doing this work for almost 2 years out of our own pocket.
Okay, would you say that everyone that was appointed to that program has the same standing, or that advisory board?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, so
you had a lot of different interests that were at that table, and I'm proud to say that I'm probably one of a couple people that didn't have any connection to any proposals that hit the table.
Okay, and I think for transparency, it's important for us to know those types of things, because if people are coming with things that are a part of their agenda or what they're trying to pass into a session that is about how are we going to advocate for the community and what the community needs, it pollutes the waters in a way that makes it not look so good. There was a hurricane that took place off the coast of California. Off the coast of Florida. It muddied the waters. For the first time, those turquoise waters did not look the same, because there was a whole bunch of debris that was thrown up at the same time. So we have to make sure that our motives are clear and transparent. We're going to move from, because I don't want to sit here and spend time with ARPA, but I did want to make sure that I'm not bringing you on, Jeff, because we're on a team and we're in here, but this is an authentic conversation, a radio personality, a community activist. I've owned the name, see, community activist, and another community activist who is doing work in the community for the community, not being paid, but this is stuff that he does in his own time with his own resources. So, Jeff, let's talk about the master plan. You and I, we first came in, and I need to let people know, you made me aware of what was taking place in my own backyard. And I continually tell people that we have to be engaged in the process. And it was this situation that you alerted me to. You and some other council members, as a matter of fact, when the council meeting was happening, I was getting text messages and pictures of zoning things. You alerted me what was happening in my own backyard. Shame on me for not being aware of what was taking place. But from that time, I was activated, and I wanted to engage people so that people could be a part of this conversation. So, Jeff, let us know what is the current state of the city's master plan. It's been passed by the Planning Commission. Now it goes to City Council, but you guys, CAP, had a meeting, community meeting. Tell us about your community forum. I believe it was on last Thursday, how it happened, what was the outcome, and what was your response? What did you guys present?
So we had a great community meeting at New Life Ministries. Shout out to Pastor Tatum for being our gracious host. I literally called him at the last minute because the timeline changed, and he was all for it. He's like, "Hey, let's go, let's make it happen," and he made it. He helped us make it happen, and we're so thankful for that. But we had a community meeting just to present. Us with Saginaw CAP, we came up with our own kind of skeleton master plan, because we're not just complaining. We want to be solutions oriented as well. Like, you can't just come to the table and say what you don't want. You got to say what you do want. So we sat down over about a week plus, and put together a lot of what we've been doing anyway. We've been gathering this data for almost 2 years. So it was just really about putting it together on a document to show the community and share with the community something that they can get behind. And that's a master plan that actually speaks to, the specific problems, not only in the city as a whole, but specific neighborhoods. There's some things on the north side that the south side isn't dealing with. So you have to, as far as master planning, that's how a master plan is supposed to be built out. You're supposed to be specific. And we like to think that we put together a great plan, and hopefully the community can get behind it.
All right. So I was not able to be at your meeting on Thursday, but I did. You were a part of the conversation. You brought a copy to the Saginaw African Americans pastors meeting on Friday. And I want to thank you for coming, Jeff, because I think that you gave some insight. I think it's important as an activist that you don't keep, information in pools, but you share it with other pools. And what I want officials to understand, and I've said this before, is that no, Jeff has, if people know who you're following, you're for the community, and you're in these various groups making things happen. So you shared your plan for amendments to the city's master plan, and you then gave some insight on how the city pastors must also become a bit more streamlined in their process, organized, and putting their things together. Jeff, when you look at our master plan, what are the key issues? If you could say the top, 3 to 5 key issues in our community, what have they continually shown to be?
Well, I think when you think of the master plan, you think of land usage, you think of housing, you think of environmental concerns. Those are probably the top 3, because it's especially specific to Saginaw. That's what we've dealt with over the last 50, 60 years. Those things. I heard you mention GM earlier in your show. They're a big part of this, and we should be bringing them back to the table on the environmental concerns as well. So those are the top 3, I would say.
Okay, now, and I want to just make a clarification, because you said that I mentioned GM. The reason I mentioned GM was because of the land, but there's another issue that has come up that I think that is so vitally important for every homeowner in Saginaw County. Because what I found out is that the land that is polluted at GM, a lot of that land has moved around to different locations throughout our city. When there was a need for landfill or black dirt or whatever, a lot of the land that was sitting on the site at General Motors has been used for landfill or, grading new communities. We got a number of high-end home locations that were built in the city of Saginaw with landfill, and there is a high likelihood that a lot of the polluted land from General Motors is sitting underneath these multi-million or these huge, almost a couple of them are multi-million-dollar homes, or some of these other homes, maybe some of the subdivisions that are out there. And so that is the reason why I've taken a decade, 4 decades, or whatever, however long it's been, change with General Motors. That's the reason why we bring this up. What's the environmental impact when you look at this, Jeff? And you said one of the issues in environment. What are some of the environmental impacts that our community has had that people would say, no, it's about housing and food and this, but you're saying that it's about environmental justice. So what are some of the issues that people need to be aware of that can impact them?
Well, I mean, I think, environmental justice encompasses everything that people are talking about. So I always tell people that they're correct, but it's all under the same umbrella. Environmental justice isn't just housing, isn't just land. You're talking about infrastructure as well. Like, we've had water issues. We've seen Flint have their issues. We have ours. A lot of this stuff just needs to be dealt with in an equitable fashion. And that's what your master plan is supposed to lay out. Your master plan is supposed to take you from the history to what we're dealing with now, and then how do we come out of it in an equitable fashion. And that's the conversation that CAP wants to continue to push, and hopefully get us to a positive place.
And when you say that, you talk about water. One of the things that's interesting, when the Flint water crisis was happening, there are a lot, because people in Saginaw don't recognize that our water supply is used for more than just Saginaw County. And so people think, oh, it's our Saginaw City. It's the Saginaw City's water. I'm almost, and I may be incorrect, but someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the answer is that our water is used for places as far as Pontiac, north of Pontiac. That area has, our water impacts those areas. And so when we talk about how our water is being used, I think it's very important to understand that it's not just us using our water. Now, those things help bring money into the city. But as we look at environmental, we talk about something called redlining, Jeff. And we look at how 675 and the trains. Share with us how you see those things impacting our community.
Well, you think about the history, again, master plan, you have to deal with the history. And our master plan should reflect that history. I don't know if a lot of people know that the history of the highway system and how racist, its beginnings were. And that impact, we're still feeling that. The I-75, the 675, I should say, that goes from the main corridor of I-75 that loops you downtown Saginaw, like that split up the north side of Saginaw. It literally split up the north side of Saginaw.
Intentionally, right?
Yeah, it was like the 60s, I believe, that it happened. Maybe even the 50s. But, that split up, the north side, in particular, that was the black side of town. So we're clear. That split up, that ravaged the neighborhood. And we've never atoned for that. And, that's where a master plan can come in to address that. And then also, use that master plan process, which is a year process, use that process to talk to the people that actually went through it and gain that understanding and that data to then apply it to your master plan, and then, connect with the community to come up with a solution that's equitable for everybody. And, the master plan process is supposed to be a process that's very transparent, very public, use public meetings to gather people and gather ideas. And then, everybody will feel like they're a part of the solution. And to this date, that hasn't happened that way. And we hope to help change that.
And so I think it's important for those of you who are listening and those who will watch this in its replay status to understand that highways, train tracks, and bridges, all those types of things, you've got to put those things in a historical perspective is one of the things that Jeff is saying. Many of us just think that they put a bridge up at a particular place just so that we can have access. But bridges, just as they gave access, they weren't always the same type of bridge. They were drawbridges, so you could deny access. When we looked at what our Mayor Marsh did during the race riots, he recognized that if we raise the bridges, we can stop some of the things that were happening. In like fashion, when Blacks were being empowered with the amount of economic wealth to make change happen, everybody was not happy that we were moving into their neighborhoods. And they certainly didn't want us moving into nice neighborhoods of our own, because I need y'all to understand that when we get together and we work together, we become a fear to people. And so one way that they would keep the housing value of Black properties down is, let's just put a train track through here. Let's put a highway through here, because nobody wants to live with a highway or train tracks in their backyard. So when he talks about environmental justice, when he talks about redlining and things of that nature, these are practices that have happened, and they have a historical perspective. And many people that come to the planning process will deal with what's at hand, and not addressed. Just so, like, Black people like living in filth, Black people like living in blight, Black people just don't take care of their properties. But these are the things that we've heard in our community. But the reality of it is, there's a historical perspective that is often overlooked, that is so very important. And so, Jeff, I thank you for sounding the alarm on those things. How can people get involved with what CAP is doing, community action for the people?
Well, everything we do is community based. So, number one, you can follow us on social media, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram. We have pages on all of those. But other than that, you can always reach out to me, myself, Pastor Coleman, and others. We have a core group that, we all kind of, we came together as single activists and kind of formed Voltron in a way, to say, hey, we can do this together and do it in a major way. So, please reach out to us, man. That, we're always open to other people's ideas. We practice what we preach. Like, we want our government to be, open and have conversations. Well, we have conversations with people too that don't always agree with us either. So, let's have that conversation. I think transparency is the word of the day. And, that's going to get us to a better place as a city and as a community.
Jeff, I think what's funny is you referred to something that I think some of our listening audience are like, who in the world is Voltron? Those of us of a particular age, we understand who Voltron is.
Transformers.
Look at him in here trying to act like he knows what's going on.
I do know what's going on.
Right. Who is just because when you make a reference like that, people are like, who is Voltron? And they'll miss everything that you said because they're trying to figure out who's Voltron. Rob, who's Voltron?
The robot thing, the turns to a car and all that stuff,
So when the Transformers were individuals, you had, the different individual Transformers, and that when they needed to fight a big adversary, they would become Voltron, meaning that they would bring all their talents together.
All their parts together.
Their parts together, absolutely. So thank you, Jeff, thank you. So when we look at what's on the horizon for our city, some important dates, some important meetings. I want to give a shout out to Pastor Torres Simpson. He just sent me a message listening, and I want the community to know, just as Jeff is CAP, Community Action for the People, this is straight talk. And when we started this journey, Rob, it was our endeavor, and I shared with you the vision for the show, and you're like, oh, I like this. This is some good necessary trouble, that we would talk about the issues that were pertinent to not only where we were today, but how they would impact us generationally. And so I think that we are continually trying to make that effort. Absolutely. Bobby DeLeon, my brother, he says, don't forget about the Hispanic community. We will not be left out. My brother, any room that I am in, you are always in, because I'm going to put my foot in the door and make sure you get into. And I think that that's what we have to begin to do. So oftentimes the fights that we have are the same fights. And so
I reach out my hand to you and grab you and take you with me in my back if I have to.
Absolutely. So Rob and I represent a good pool of the listening audience. He pushes us up to the older years, but he has a perspective that is very important. Jeff, you have a great perspective in terms of where you are and what you're saying. Absolutely. Those of you out there, we are better together. It's important for us to stay involved with this process. So, Jeff, moving forward, what are the key dates of the things that our community needs to be aware of as we endeavor? Because I believe that Saginaw is rising. I'm going to tell you, God woke me in a dream, said our city is under construction. And I just saw building everywhere. Our city is under construction. And so what that means, and Jeff, I want to give you some time to make sure you got those dates and times. What that means is if any of you have any biblical sense or understanding, or even if you don't, in the book of Nehemiah was called to restore, to rebuild the walls of the city. Jerusalem had been torn down. Its residents had been taken captive and were in bondage. And so once they were freed, they were allowed to go back and to just kind of go wherever they wanted to. And Nehemiah learned that the walls of his childhood city, the city of his fathers and grandparents, had been burned down and destroyed. And he took the role on as an advocate for his community to rebuild the walls, to restore a rightful worship in the church, to make sure that the city was protected. And he had the blessing of the king, but he did the work. And at the end of the story, you know, Nehemiah was protecting the city with one hand, weapons in one hand, and work tools to build in the other hand. And it is symbolic of, I think, where we are as the city of Saginaw, Jeff. We've got to protect our city against all of the violence and the things that are happening that are nonsensical. But we also have to put in the work to make great things happen. And so it reminds me of the fact that we have to all come together. When I saw We Are Better Together, we need everybody. Everyone may not be Nehemiah. Everyone may not be Jeff Bulls or the Rob Father or Kareem Bowen, but we need what you have. We need you to bring it to the table because our city is under construction. And we're going to get back to Jeff with those dates, but I think it's so important for us to understand. And I want you to know, I don't have any enemies.
Reconstruction I like to use because it was like the Civil War. We had the building already, but then it got destroyed. And now Saginaw's on the reconstruction in a whole new manner, moving forward to the progress of the future.
Absolutely. So this building is going on. And one of the things that I think is very important for you to understand is that I don't have any enemies as it relates to the building. Now, there are people that talk about me. There's one individual man and his wife that are out there that are scandalized, try to scandalize my name, but character, I don't address it. I don't give it energy. And, you know, I said that the truth will always outlive a lie. But every time they speak me, they give power to my dreams and they take away the energy that they need to fuel theirs. So I don't have any enemies as it relates to the city and to the council, the mayor. I'm not on anybody's team. I want to be on the side that believes that Saginaw has a rich future. And I'm going to align myself with those who I believe in our city. So to the mayor, I absolutely love. I call him Mama Mayor. Mayor Moore, you have been a light and a force, and people in this community love you. I want you to continue to do that work. Jeffrey Bulls, my brother in arms and in activism. I want to continually encourage you to do what you do. But I want to speak to the bench warmers on the side of, they're sitting on the side watching this thing go down. Get involved. As you get involved, your opinion matters, your thoughts matters, and what you bring to the table matters. All right, Jeff. So share us, what are the important things we need to look at as we move forward?
Well, the first date I want to point people to is October 10th, which is the next city council meeting. The master plan is up for vote. And it's CAP's position that they should at least delay that vote and really revisit the master plan. You don't have to necessarily revisit the whole master plan, but in particular, that piece on the north side is of immediate importance to us. We don't want the north side to be rezoned industrial. So that's what we're advocating for the city council to delay that vote. And then the next date will be November 28th, which is another ARPA public meeting. And that one is also before another city council meeting, November 28th. And that public ARPA meeting is going to be on health and ideas and proposals around health. So they'll be probably talking about ideas of health and maybe probably presenting or making some other motions to spend some more money. So, you know, those are dates to look out for and to hopefully we want to rally the community to come to both of those meetings.
Jeff, really quick, I got 30 seconds. I want to ask you this question. What about a master plan that's approved with the understanding of whatever the city proposes, whatever amendments would be taken into consideration at another time? What are your thoughts about that?
We can work with that.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for your time today, Jeff. Thank you. Keep doing the work that you're doing. We are all better because of it. For those of you sitting on the sidelines, let's get in the game. It's time for us to make great things happen. Our city is under construction. It's a new season. It's a new day. A fresh anointing is coming our way. A season of power and its prosperity. It's a new season, and it's coming for us. Thank you for your time and attention and listening to Straight Talk. We love you all, and as usual, grace and peace.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen by the host, its guest, or call-ins do not necessarily represent the opinion of this station, the staff, its owners, Alpha Media USA, or its advertisers.